Welcome back, everyone, for the second edition of the movies that we love. Last time we did sports, now we're doing movies overall. So Joe is joining us. I am Kyle Walker, and this is the Hitting the Wall podcast special movie edition. Hey, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed our last show where Joe and I went over sports movies. Well, Joe is back, and we're going to do overall movies. And I'm going to be the first to say, this was really hard. Like, there's so many movies out there. It was really hard to come up with top three in our designated categories. Joe, what did you think? Did you have trouble with that?
You know, there was only one category that I had a really hard time with.
Uh-huh.
And that was the ones where it was just, these are my favorite.
Okay.
Because, I mean, everything else, I was like, okay, this isn't too difficult. But the ones where it was like, these are just my favorite movies.
Okay.
That was, like, I had a list that started with, like, 15. And so to narrow it down to three, that was
hard.
That was tough.
Yeah, it was. All right. Well, just so everyone knows, here's what we're going to go over for our movie special edition. We have our overrated movies. We have our underrated movies. We have our guilty pleasure movies. Then our personal favorite movies. And then the movies that we think are just the best. Even if you saw it once and you never need to watch it again, the ones that you just think were some of the best movies you've ever seen. Doesn't mean they're your favorite, just the best.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're going.
And I want to just get something out of the way real early.
Real early? Do it. Fire away.
Because people who know me know that I don't really appreciate too many movies that begin with the word star.
Yeah.
Whether it be Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I just kind of ruled those out of my lexicon for this because I could have had I could have done a whole episode on how much I dislike them all.
Well, and that's why I made sure that last trip to Wally World, I found a Star Wars shirt to wear just for today.
Yeah, I know. I noticed.
Yep.
I noticed you're green guy.
Yeah. Yep, that's Baby Yoda. He's like my new favorite Star Wars character. It's great. So, all right. Well, what category do you want to start with? Let's jump right in because Zoom only gives us one.
Why don't we start with underrated?
The underrated movies. Okay, yeah. I kind of like my list here. So, but
okay.
You go first. Guess first. Fire away.
Okay, so at the first one I have is one that I didn't see until recently because I'd heard it wasn't very good. But then I watched it and I was like, dang, this is good. And it's the movie Yes Man.
Yes Man. Oh, that's Paul Rudd and Jason Segel, correct?
No, sir. No, sir. Okay. This is Jim Carrey.
Oh, Jim Carrey.
Yeah, this is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a guy, he goes to one of those Tony Robbins type people and he decides he's just going to say yes to everything.
Oh my. Okay.
And it turns out to be just, there's a little bit of heartwarming, there's a little bit hilarious. And I think part of the reason why it's underrated is because people think Jim Carrey and they think Dumb and Dumber, they think The Mask, they think those sort of things. And that's not what this is. This is like grown-up comedy.
Oh, okay.
And it was really, really good.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one, so I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. So, and on my second one on my underrated list is Hot Fuzz.
I love Hot Fuzz.
Because quite frankly, I don't know that I can say enough good about Hot Fuzz. Now, I know people who just think, oh, it's just stupid. That's the point.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's absolutely the point.
That's the point.
Okay, so the fun part about Hot Fuzz, now, overall, Hot Fuzz was the middle movie in the Cornetto trilogy. Okay, and that's Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright director. It starts with Shaun of the Dead. If you are a zombie movie fan at all, you have to watch Shaun of the Dead. It's a zombie comedy.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. Goes next to Hot Fuzz, which is a cop comedy because then they're both police officers. And then the last one is The World's End, which I don't think was as well loved as the first two, but I still love it. And it's mostly about friends getting older in the middle of an alien invasion. But
Yes.
all three of those movies are golden. Okay, number one on your underrated list.
And then the number one on my underrated list is On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, the James Bond flick.
With George Lazenby.
His one appearance as James Bond.
Yes, his one appearance as James Bond. I honestly think, and this is my opinion, I think, first, it's better than anything that Timothy Dalton did.
Well, that's not difficult.
It's better than anything that Pierce Brosnan did.
That I'm not sure about.
I think it was better than most of the ones that Sean Connery did.
Okay.
I'm a George Lazenby fan. I think he did a great job. One of the funniest parts about this is that the entire movie, his voice was dubbed over.
Oh,
it wasn't his actual voice.
Yeah, because he didn't have the voice for James Bond, from what I remember.
No, that's why he didn't do a second one.
Right.
Because they didn't want to have to do that. But I just think it was a great movie.
Okay. All right. Well, here we go with my underrated. My first one is this was a great movie, and it did not get a lot of love. The movie Munich, and that's with Eric Bana, and he's playing an Israeli Secret Service agent during the Olympics, where the Israeli athletes were, I think they were actually killed, and
they were murdered.
Yeah, they were murdered, and it's about him and his team trying to find the people responsible. And Eric Bana, he's not an Israeli actor, but man, that movie was great. Like gripping, suspenseful, based on true events, which I always find fascinating. That movie did not get enough love. Let's see. Oh, number two. I don't know. Some people might not think this was underrated because it definitely did get love, but I always bring it up whenever we're having a conversation like this. The movie Glory.
Oh.
Yeah, Glory with Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick could actually act.
You're right. He's not just Ferris Bueller. But yeah, Matthew Broderick, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Cary Elwes. The list of people in that movie goes on and on. It's a Civil War era movie about the first black regiment in the Northern Army. If you've not seen Glory, you're missing one of the best war movies ever made. I'll flat say ever made. It's in the top five.
I mean, anytime you can get Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, and the Dread Pirate Roberts in one movie.
Yeah.
I mean, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, not much. But yeah, that movie, I still don't think it gets enough love. And then my number one underrated movie, because if you watch this movie and you think, I want to go watch another movie like it, you will not find one. It was one of the most original movies I've ever seen. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh, never seen that one.
It's amazing. It is basically a movie video game, or video game movie, however you want to call it. But you can never find another movie that's like it. And, I understand. I'm probably too old these days to really relate or like that movie because it's about younger people and they, just doing their younger people thing. But I love that movie. And the action that comes out of it, it was completely unexpected. A movie with Michael Cera as the lead, who's kind of a wimpy, dorky guy. For him to pull off the action scenes that he did, got my attention. So,
dude, he was in Zombieland, right?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
No, there's Jesse Eisenberg and there's Michael Cera, and I swear you'll never see them both in the same place at the same time.
Right.
And
right. I get it.
I think it was Cera. Yeah, Eisenberg did Zombieland, and Cera did Cerra did Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, should we move on to the overrated movies?
Yeah, you want to go first?
I will. Okay, so my first overrated movie, and I might catch hell for this, I did not like and cannot get into upon multiple viewings, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Oh, Joe froze. He was so shocked his face froze. Are you still with us? Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
There we go.
Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
So, Sorry about that.
That's all right. It says we're a little unstable here, so the internet knows us. But there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so did you want to rebut that claim of Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, bro, there was some great one-liners in that movie, but as far as a movie goes, you're right.
Yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Number 2, the movie Avatar.
Okay.
Avatar, if you did not see it when it came out in theaters, and you didn't see it in the 3D, and you didn't see it with the IMAX sound, if you try and watch it at home just as a movie by itself, it sucks. Like
You might as well watch Dances with Wolves.
You might as well, because it's the same darn movie.
Yeah.
Just, the special effects are a little different. So yeah, Avatar without the theater work, no bueno.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last overrated, and I might go straight to hell for this one, E.T. I cannot.
It was boring as all get out.
Do what?
That movie was boring as all get out.
Wasn't it though? Oh my God! Everybody loves E.T. I'm like, look, a midget in a little outfit, kind of running around. No, I can't get into it. That movie bothers me. It's so slow, and yeah, brutal. So
okay.
Yeah, those are my 3.
Okay, so here's what I got.
All right. You told me earlier that one of these was going to start controversy.
It might, yeah.
Oh, all right. Here we go.
And honestly, 2 of them might, depending upon who I'm talking to.
All right.
So the first one that might, depending upon who I'm talking to, is The Breakfast Club.
I'm with you. I didn't care for that movie.
That was a stupid movie.
Yeah, the John Hughes films were all basically the same.
I didn't like any of them. It was just dumb. I'm with you on the number 2. I actually have Avatar written down as my number 2.
Great minds think alike.
I know. And now here's the one.
Okay.
And The Dark Knight.
All right. So you're not going to be able to see it here. On my overrated list, I actually crossed out the Dark Knight trilogy in favor of Monty Python. It was on my list until I crossed it out. Actually, you can see it's crossed out right there. You can't tell.
Yeah.
It's crossed out. I'm with you. And my biggest complaint about that whole trilogy is the broodiness of Christian Bale and how every movie, all it is I don't want to be Batman for 3 straight movies.
Yeah. So I only picked The Dark Knight because I think it was worse than Batman Begins,
mm-hmm.
and it was worse than the one with Tom Hardy.
Right.
Primarily because Tom Hardy is incredible.
Even when they don't use his voice and you don't see his face, he was pretty good in that movie.
He was pretty darn good. So yeah, I mean, those are my overrated movies: The Breakfast Club, Avatar, and The Dark Knight. And
let's be real honest, The Dark Knight would not have gotten all the love that it did if it wasn't for the Heath Ledger side story.
Well, now I want to be honest. He was really good in that movie.
He was really good. But again, that movie on the whole would not have been as big if it weren't for the Heath Ledger side issue.
Right.
Tragedy though it was, still.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So where do we want to go next? Guilty pleasures?
Yeah, I think guilty pleasures.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to take this one?
Sure. I can absolutely not narrow this down to 3. I got 4. So,
you got 4. Oh, you cheater.
I do. So here we are. Tremors.
Okay. Guilty pleasure movie. I can totally see that. 80s cheese right there.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Bacon at the cheesiest of all cheesy, and I loved it.
Absolutely. There you go.
Okay, so now we'll go a little bit more recent than that.
Okay.
While I don't like Star Wars and Star Trek, Galaxy Quest.
Yes, I love Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest is hilarious.
Yeah, because they're spoofing everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. They're spoofing Star Wars, they're spoofing Star Trek, they're spoofing all of it.
And Tim Allen is funny.
He is funny. He was really good in that movie.
I mean, that was impressive. Okay, the third one on my list is Mystery Men.
Okay, I couldn't get into that one. I tried.
Oh man,
just didn't work.
It's on TV, if it's on TV, I am watching it and I am laughing my tail off.
Right.
You know, Janine Garofalo talking to a bowling ball. You know, anything where Hank Azaria is throwing spoons at people. I think it's great.
It definitely had a heck of a cast.
And now here's my last one. And this one almost stands completely alone from all the rest of them.
Okay.
Because of its awesomeness. They Live.
Oh, Roddy Piper. You went with the Roddy Piper movie.
I went with Roddy Piper. I mean, that's one. First off, there's not many more iconic movie lines that I know of than I'm here to chew gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of gum.
Right, right.
You know.
Oh yeah.
But yes, if I can find They Live on, I will search for it from time to time because I like it so much.
I do remember seeing it. It didn't leave a big impression on me, but of course I did see it.
Yeah,
certainly not something I loathed.
Because it was Roddy Piper.
Exactly, in his heyday. So, all right, let's see. My guilty pleasure movies. I guess you could kind of count this as 4, but number 3 is The Boondock Saints 1 and 2. Are you flagging down the ice cream man?
Oh. Somebody stopped by my house to let me know a dog is out.
Oh, well, all right. It's not your dog.
Keep talking.
All right, you do your thing. Okay, so, yes, Joe is talking to a neighbor because he's outside. This is what happens with live podcasting, folks. Isn't it amazing?
All right. I'm back.
Welcome back. All right, so yeah, my guilty pleasure, number kind of 3 and 3A, Boondock Saints 1 and 2. Those are bloody shoot-'em-up movies, and they're an absolute blast.
I've never seen the second.
It was actually good. Again, they're almost to the point of superhuman in the second movie, but who cares? It's fun.
Okay.
Angry Irish Brothers, you gotta love it. Let's see, number 2 on my guilty pleasure list, and this is a movie, if it comes on, I will not turn it off, which is odd because I hate 2 out of the 3 lead characters. A Few Good Men. I don't like Tom Cruise, and I don't like Demi Moore, but A Few Good Men is one of the best courtroom drama movies ever made. Again, top 5, if not top 3, probably top 3. So that's another one of my guilty pleasure movies, and then my number 1 guilty pleasure movie, as unpolitically correct as it is, Blazing Saddles.
Amen.
Good old Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, one of the funniest movies you will ever see, and it was risque even for the 70s.
Man, they couldn't make that movie today.
No, you couldn't even come close to making that movie today.
You would be in so much trouble.
So true.
For even thinking those things.
That's true.
Even though they're funny.
Oh, they were funny. Were funny. So, yeah. So there's my 3 guilty pleasures.
Okay.
All right.
So the question here, Kyle, comes: do we do the best movies, the movies that we think are just the best, or do we do our favorites?
Well, let's do the movies that we just think are the best. Now, one of them I wrote down. I'm kind of having second thoughts on, but we'll go with it here. So yeah, so the best movie. Okay. So number 3, and again I wrote it down because it's fresh in my mind because I just saw it. If you haven't seen that movie 1917, the World War I movie, it was so good. I sat there in shock for probably 5 minutes after the credits rolled because of how good it was. That is an amazing film. It just came out on DVD recently. If you haven't seen it, you definitely got to check that one out. Number 2 for me, I've seen it one time. I will never, ever watch it again. But when it came out, I thought it should have won every award that it was eligible to win, and that was The Passion of the Christ. I could never watch that movie a second time. It is hard to watch, but it was phenomenal. And then my number 1, the best movie I've ever seen, Dead Poets Society. Robin Williams giving up the comedy for a while, going to a more serious role. Dead Poets Society. That is the best movie ever made. Not my favorite, although it's up there. It's in the top 5 of my favorites, but I think it's probably one of the best movies I've ever seen.
So I've only seen one of those movies.
Passion of the
I've
Christ.
seen Dead Poets Society.
Oh, okay. You've not seen Passion of the Christ.
No, I know how the story ends.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of like watching Titanic. We know how this is going to end up. But
yeah, I know how the story ends. I've read the book.
Still, though, amazing.
I've read the book.
It might be
okay.
Cool as a pastor to watch it at some point.
One of these days.
I got it on DVD.
So, and 1917 is on my list.
Okay. Yeah.
So not on my list. It's on my list of things I want to watch.
Right.
So, okay. So the best movies I've got. Here's the 3 that I have for best ever.
Okay.
And so the first one is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, a little Gregory Peck action going there. Okay. Oh, if you're watching the video, look at the face that Joe has when it froze. Hold on, It
is my favorite novel of all time.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, you were frozen for a second.
Okay.
But we're good now.
That's okay. It's my favorite novel of all time.
Okay, To Kill a Mockingbird.
It is a phenomenal movie. Gregory Peck was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't do bad roles.
No. The next movie had, as far as I'm concerned, probably the 2 greatest actors of their generation in it.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah. Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington. That's another good courtroom movie.
Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington. But and it's not even the courtroom stuff that gets it for me.
Okay.
Man, it's just this arc of the story. Denzel doesn't want to take this case.
Right.
But he does. And he's basically one of those ambulance chasers going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Hanks convinces him, and you just see this build of a relationship that starts very professional and then turns very personal.
Yeah.
And then, my good, that it just ripped at my heart. But at the same point in time, like, I am cheering in parts of that movie because it was just so good.
Yep. No arguments here.
Okay, and then the last one. Now here's the thing. There's an argument to be made that this is a sports movie. But I'm going to make an argument that I think that the story behind the sports part was more important than the actual sports.
Balls of
And I do what?
Nothing.
and so Raging Bull.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, yes, I understand Jake LaMotta. There's some boxing in there.
Yeah.
But the story, I mean, and the gritty, harsh truth of that man's life.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert De Niro was so freaking good. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, with what it did on an arc of a story and telling someone's story well, I mean, it's the best movie I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay.
Now, that being said, that and Philadelphia, not movies I want to watch all over again a lot.
Right. Yeah. Not very rewatchable.
But they are so good.
Right.
So, all right.
Well, that brings us down to the last one, our absolute favorite movies.
Yeah. So, I had to look at this. Right, it was. And I had to look at this and be like, all right, so what really are my favorites? Like, when it comes right down to it, what are my favorites? Like, I got a lot of movies I really like.
Mm-hmm.
But what are my favorites? And, when we did the sports one, I said there'd be at least probably one crossover.
Sure.
This is where we find the crossover.
Okay.
So my number 3 on my favorite is Major League.
Oh, okay.
Man, I love that movie. I would watch it over and over and over again. I think it's just hilarious, and it's funny because every time I watch it, I like a different character more.
Yeah,
and so it's just great.
How many times is Roger Dorn your favorite character?
Roger Dorn's been my favorite character a couple of times. I'm going to give Corbin Burnson some props.
Absolutely.
I mean, he played that snarky,
slimy,
stuck up,
Yep.
slimy professional athlete, the jock that everybody wants to punch.
Yep.
He played that guy really well.
Yes, he did for 3 straight movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like me some I love me some Major League.
Okay.
My second favorite movie is Young Frankenstein.
Yes. Oh man, another Mel Brooks
I
comedy.
really could have wrote down just about anything by Mel Brooks, and I'd have been really happy with it.
Yep.
But Young Frankenstein,
Mhm.
you put Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder together, and it is
magic.
money.
Yep, it was magic.
It was I mean, and then Peter Boyle as Frankenstein. I mean, just the little lines that are picked up from there that I'll just drop into everyday society.
Oh, anything that Igor said was
Right.
gold.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then my favorite movie ever is First Blood.
Rambo First Blood?
Rambo First Blood.
Okay.
You know, I talked on the last episode about how much I appreciate Rocky.
Yes.
I am right on board with Rambo, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Rambo 2, Rambo 3, not so much. Then we returned. It's kind of Sylvester Stallone has that arc with his stuff where number 1 is really good. Then it kind of drops a bit. And then he waits a little while and he comes back with something that's just exceptional.
Yes.
And then he came back with John Rambo.
Okay.
And it tied some of that story together. And it was very good. But First Blood, Brian Dennehy was in that. And I mean, it was all in all, it is my favorite movie ever.
Okay. Right on.
So how about you, man?
All right, let's see. So my favorites, number 3 is a more recent one. It's, I think it's a great movie. There's like not really a whole lot of, drama to it. It's just basically an ultimate feel-good movie. And I got to enjoy it with my daughters who love it as well. The Greatest Showman is a fantastic film. And it's one that we can watch over and over again and enjoy it every time. The music is good. I loved as a kid The Music Man with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones. This is in the same vein as the old Robert Preston Music Man. And so for nostalgia's sake, and then because it's something I can enjoy with my kids, love that movie. Love it.
Okay.
Number 2 is Pulp Fiction. It's another one where I don't think you can go out and find too many movies like it. It was definitely original. But love Pulp Fiction.
It's interesting. Tarantino, when he went out to make that movie, said he was trying to make something that had never been made before, and he did.
Yep, absolutely he did.
And he was trying to make something, and the other part of it was funny, though, he says, I wanted to make a movie that other people would try to mimic but wouldn't be able to.
And he absolutely did.
Absolutely.
Absolutely did. And that's one, I loved it from the first time I saw it, and I've loved it ever since. And then my number 1 favorite movie, because I think it might be one of like the most perfect movies ever done, is The Shawshank Redemption. Like, you can't find a bad part or a bad scene or a bad actor or a bad score or a bad camera shot. You can't find a bad in that movie.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's deep. It's a deep movie. This is not some ultimate feel-good comedy, but man, it might be one of the most perfect movies ever made.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised that wasn't on your best ever list.
Well, see, and it's one of the ones, because those categories are kind of so close, it can go in either. I mean, it's right at the top of both, but I was trying to keep it interesting.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Man, you know what's been fun about these, Kyle, is that, it's caused me to start to think about and look back on movies that I want to watch again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Things that I hadn't thought about in a while. When we went through the sports movies, it made me think about, like, we sat and we watched Cool Runnings later.
Yeah.
And you reminded me of A League of Their Own, so I sat with my middle daughter and we watched this together, and then we went out and had a catch.
And how good was that movie? Isn't that movie great? Yeah.
But then as I'm thinking through these, it got me, as I was like, I realized, wait, I haven't watched First Blood in a while. Like, it's been like 6 months. So for me, that's a while. And so I sat and watched it. And but then, I started thinking, okay, what else haven't I seen?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll grab different actors, and it took me down the road of Tommy Boy with Brian Dennehy, and 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 you get to discover other things that people have done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I rediscovered a Sylvester Stallone movie called Cobra.
More 80s cheese.
I mean, it was bad, but it was fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, absolutely it was.
Listen, the 80s did that part, the fun part really well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually a series on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us, and they kind of give an hour-long behind-the-scenes feel on a lot of those 80s movies. And I just watched yesterday the one on Die Hard, and again, 80s cheese, but it's really fun to learn about kind of how they viewed action stars in the 80s. It was Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then it's like, here's the little dinky Bruce Willis coming off of Moonlighting, who's going to be the new big action star. And
right.
So, yeah, he kind of led the way out of the 80s from those huge, jacked up, muscle-bound action movie stars.
And I will tell you, the one that almost got to me, almost got on my favorite list, that would have been like my number 4, is one of those type where it just didn't line up with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger or Dolph Lundgren, was Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, a buddy cop movie.
Well, Mel Gibson didn't look like those guys.
No, he was just a crazy Australian at that point.
But you kind of got the feeling after watching him, after you watched him saw him fight Gary Busey in the front yard.
Yeah.
That he might give Rocky a run for his money.
I don't know about all that noise, but yeah.
Just because he's crazy.
He was crazy, that's for sure.
Sheerly out of craziness. So, but
this was fun. After our last one, I watched Semi Pro because I saw it was on Netflix after our sports movie show.
Yeah.
God, I love that movie. So much fun. I like Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson's is like, there's a lot of things he's been in where he just captures roles, and it's like in Anger Management.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm rolling on that. I didn't like hardly any of that movie except for Woody Harrelson.
Well, let's be honest. Cheers would not have been the show that it was without Woody Harrelson in it.
Right.
He stole a lot of that show for however many years it was on, quite a few. And a lot of that
13 seasons.
13 was it? Okay, I knew it was a lot.
Yeah, and he came on in season 3.
Season 3. Yeah, I knew he wasn't in the first one. So
yeah, well, the first 2 seasons they had that guy who was Coach.
Yeah, and then Coach died.
Then he legit died.
Right,
yeah.
The actor did. And they replaced him with Woody Harrelson. And man, that dummy made that show.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
I was not tuning into that show for Ted Danson. No, it was for Woody.
So all right, so now you and I have a decision to make, man.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, I mean, we're still not completely out all this stuff. We're still on the corona-demic thing going on.
We are indeed.
And there's still not a lot outside of that to talk about.
Sure.
So what kind of list do we want to do next?
I don't know. We've done sports movies. You want to go into sports?
You want to do it's baseball season. You want to put together our all-time lineup and starting rotation and bullpen and talk about it?
I don't see why not.
Why don't we do it?
All right. Our next episode is going to be our dream team baseball players.
I think it'll be great. It'll be great.
Hey, I'm down because, we are still we're not really under lockdown here in Kansas. We have opened phase 2. So, take that for what it's worth.
But still, there's not a lot else in the news right now to talk about. There's not a lot going on.
No, it's definitely not good things in the news to talk about, really. So, yeah, I like it. Baseball. That's going to be our next one. So,
yeah,
that'll work.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it as always.
Yep. We'll talk to you later.
Yep. Everyone, take care. We'll see you on our next episode, whenever that comes out, of Hitting the Wall. So, hey, and make sure in the comments section, everyone, as you're watching this live, if you agree, disagree with some of our movie picks, go ahead and put yours. Let's talk about it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yep. So,
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us yours, because I want to make fun of them.
Oh, or just politely discuss them, or make fun of.
Or both.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, both. All right. Later on, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.
Later.